It's December 28th, and I've started, I guess you could call it the reproduction system for the fish. So what you see there on the screen is the egg, a simple circle, but with a white, kind of a glowy highlight or something on it. I wanted the egg to be somewhat white, like a chicken egg, but also still have some color in it to reflect the fish that it came from. So here's a prefab of the egg. I've just made it a bright pink color, but actually that color will the colorful part will change depending on whatever fish lays it. So I thought, why not walk through some of the code here just to kind of show how I threw this thing together. First off, I selected a method in the fish script, which is on every fish. This use energy script runs every 1 second. So, I didn't need to do egg stuff for a fish on every frame or every fixed update. So I'm not putting it in an update or a fixed update method. Use energy happens once a second. That's often enough. And all I do in the use energy is I just added a single line here to call the reproduction method, and that's going to be the method within the fish script that handles all the reproduction stuff. So what does the reproduction method look like? Well, right now it doesn't look like much at all. It just says, for right now anyway, it's very simple. I'm just trying to test to see if this thing works. So I just have, when it calls reproduction, it does a random number from 0 to 1. And if that number is less than 0.05, it will call the spawn egg method. So basically, what is that? About one egg every 20 seconds. I think that comes out to roughly. It's random, so it could be more or less, but roughly about once every 20 seconds an egg will be spawned. So let's take a look at the spawn egg method. I tend to say spawn egg function because I grew up doing C++ and older kind of coding where it was functions, not methods, but it's just all the same thing, right? So here in the middle you can see the spawn egg method. There it is, bigger in the center of the screen there. So all this does is it calls the spawn egg method in the ecosystem class, and it sends it two pieces of information. It just sends it the position of this fish, so the egg will be created in the position that this fish currently is, and it also sends the this fish's genes, which it can do that by just setting this one object, fish genes. So that calls the so let's look at the spawn egg method in ecosystem. Okay, and here's our spawn egg method that's in the ecosystem script, and it receives the position of the fish, and it receives the fish's genes right there. It instantiates an egg prefab in the position of the fish. We don't care about the rotation since it's just a little sphere, a little ball, a little circle. It takes this egg and it puts it in the egg folder in my hierarchy, just to keep all my objects kind of organized in my hierarchy. Then it looks for the egg script that's attached to the egg prefab, and it puts that in this egg object egg variable called temp egg, and then using temp egg it can then put in all kind of values into the egg itself. So what does it do there? It basically populates the fish genes that are in the egg with all the fish gene information that came in from the fish. So over here on the right you can see the underscore fish genes. That's all coming from the fish. And it's so really all it's doing right now is copying all the genes from the fish exactly into the new fish, into the egg, which will be the new fish. So merely it's making exact clones of itself. There's no mutation or anything else yet. I'm going to introduce that at some point, but for now it's just going to be a clone. And the last thing it does here is it goes to the sprite render and sets the color of the egg to be the same color as the fish. by the fish gene hues right there. So that creates the egg about once every 20 seconds. All right, and here is the egg script. Very simple so far, and might not need to get much more complicated than this. At the start, it wants to find the ecosystem script, so that's what the first couple of lines to start does here. And then after that, then it invokes the spawn fish script, and it happens whatever number of seconds I have put in the static data in the global data for egg hatch seconds. So right now, every egg that's laid, it will hatch at exactly the same amount of time after being laid. I need to introduce some randomness to that, but right now it's a constant based on whatever I put into this variable here. So then when the spawn fish is called, the first thing it does is it checks to be sure that the number of fish in the simulation are not there's not more of them than the maximum number of fish allowed. If the max number is already reached, then we're not going to create any more, and this egg is just going to die without creating a fish, because the simulation just cannot handle enough game objects. I've got right now the max number of fish set to 130, so if it tries to hatch an egg to create fish number 131, this should stop that from happening, and then it will destroy this egg here. But if there is room for more fish in the world, then it will go through the step here where in the ecosystem it will do this method that we created earlier. It's going to create a fish from genes, and we send it the genes from the egg right here. Next, it takes that little fish that was created, which creates it at the origin, and it moves its position to match up with this egg. So the new little fish being created is going to be spawned at the position of the egg, which makes sense. And the last two steps are similar to what we saw in the last video of how I kind of reorganized some things. It needs to then go to the fish script, and it's going to do the initialize fish, which sets all the required variables in the fish script, and then come to life starts the swimming and the animation of the mouth and the tail. So that is how an egg hatches into a fish and then destroys the egg. Okay, so let's take a look at what that all looks like. There's the plants grow up quick, fish are born, and then about once every 20 seconds, a fish should lay an egg. I've only got, I think 10 or so fish here to start with. I saw a couple there. Oh, I saw it after the fact. Here's the little yellow one up there. Turns into a little yellow fish. Here's an orange egg laid by this orange fish here. It just turned into a little orange fish. I think they hatch into a fish after maybe 3 seconds or something pretty quick. But already we've got quite a number of tiny fish floating around here in our world. And in fact, the simple way I have fish eggs being laid at this point, even these baby fish can like lay an egg. So it gets real crazy real fast here, like rabbits. And then it gets a little jerky like that. I'm surprised that it's doing that, maybe because I'm recording it. What's interesting that I found is when I run this thing in full screen like this, it seems to run pretty smooth, unlike what we're seeing at this moment. But if I run this same with these same setting and same number of objects in the editor, it's much more glitchy because it's trying to it's got to do a lot more work, obviously, in terms of showing you what's going on in the editor and in the not the game window, but the scene view or whatever. Anyway, let's check to see if be sure we're not over the number of fish here. We should be. If I pause here and go to the eco manager here, I can see right here, Pretty small for you guys. 303 plants, 131 fish. So there's only one more fish than the 130 they're supposed to be. So that's pretty good. And if I run it from here, it'll probably be. Oh, sorry. Let's take max on play off. You can see it's pretty glitchy, very jumpy. So not great. I'm gonna try to run it without the video recording with it paused and see if it's smoother. Be right back. Okay, well, what I found is pretty interesting. It's a little bit glitchy here. The frame rate looks a little bad, and that's because in my other monitor I'm running my video recorder here. I minimized it a second ago. Let me minimize it right now, in fact, and see if it gets smoother. And maybe a little bit. So anyway, that's fish being born. Got a lot more work to do, but the start of it looks okay. I like the looks of the little fish, the little eggs here. I think look nice and bright and round and colorful. And it's producing fish of the correct color at least. So far so good. So thanks for watching.